What's up guys, welcome back to day 5 of our tour of New Zealand. Today, a little bit of a boring one. We had the wedding yesterday, so to be honest I'm a little bit dusty today, so I thought I would take this opportunity to answer one of the most common questions or errors I see online, and that is how to change your tyre when you get a flat, or how to change a tyre if it goes bald. Now, I've got the Tiny Explorer here, and unfortunately I've already got a puncture in the rear tyre. Luckily, I've got some spare tubes. First tip, when you buy an electric skateboard, if it's a pneumatic or it's got tyres, order tubes at the same time. Order 4, 5, 6, whatever you can afford. Just get extras included in the box, because the last thing you want is to wait sometimes 8 weeks to get your board delivered and then get a flat tyre in the first week, and then have to go and find tubes either from a local retailer or order more online. So tip number 1, order tubes with your board. Now there's 2 methods you can fix this. I like to use the easiest or laziest way, and that's replacing the tube. You could get a puncture repair kit if you wanted to, a simple bike puncture repair, and you could use that to fix it. That would just require taking the tube out, locating the hole and patching it. Today we're just going to do a tube replacement, and the tools you're going to need is the T-tool to remove the wheel and a simple hex tool to split the rim. Now apologies if you can hear a snoring sound. There is a big chocolate Labrador fast asleep right there. He had a big day yesterday at the wedding as well, so he's pretty tired. Right, step 1, remove the tyre. Some people like to do it attached. It just adds a complexity, so just remove the tyre completely. So take the axle bolt off, or whatever you want to call it. Don't lose your washer or your speed ring, again, whatever you want to call it. Take that off, leave the belt on the skateboard, spin it around. You shouldn't have to remove your belt covers, it's that easy. Alright, once you've got your rim off, you need to remove the gearing. Now, some wheels you'll need to undo the bolts, because the bolts will be into the gearing, but most are just placed in there, like locked in. So wiggle it around and pull it out. You may need to get a flathead screwdriver, or just a gentle tool, and just gently get a little bit of movement to make that lift out, but just do it gently and split it. Once you've got that, you can put that aside. Now you need to get your hex tool, and you need to go through here and loosen off all of these bolts. Be careful not to lose the nut from underneath. Alright, once you've removed your bolts and the corresponding nut, you can now split the rim. Now this is as simple as grabbing both sides, both halves, and lifting up. Be careful not to lose the spacer out of the middle. You will need this. Don't forget to put it back in. Pull the other half out. So now you're left with the tyre with the internal tube. So you can yank that tube out of there if you're just doing a straight replace. Pull it out. Now, where a lot of people go wrong is they put a new tube straight back in. You want to work out why it got a puncture to start with. So just really gently rub your fingers around on the inside of the tyre, all over. Make sure there's nothing sharp actually in the rubber. Make sure none of the canvas is poked through and it's piercing the tube, because you don't want to fix it and get another flat tyre straight away. Alright, once you're happy and you are satisfied there's nothing in that tyre, you can now put the tube back in. And this is where the next tip is. I find it the easiest to put a tiny little bit of air into the tube. I just use my mouth. I literally just blow it up just to get a little bit of pressure in there. It's still very, very soft, but it helps when you put it into the tyre. So now you want to basically start and get that valve in first. This is how I do it at least. And just stuff it in. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look pretty to start with. You just want to get it in there, and it's going to look really ugly. And at first you're going to think this isn't going to fit. This is where you then take your time and you just let it slot into place really gently. If you've got sharp nails, be very, very careful. You don't want to put a hole in it. And now you can see that now seated in there really, really cleanly. Got the valve facing the right way, So again, you want to make sure the valve is facing outwards and that the tread is facing the right way to go on the board. Once you've got that in there, and you can see it's all encased in that tyre. You can now put your rim back together. So line up your valve with the indent. So find your valve indent, line that up with the valve of the tyre, put that in there. Once more around just with your fingers to make sure there's no tube that's going to get pinched. Get the other half, again line up the valve, thread it through really gently here. This is the bit where I think most people come undone and they pinch the tube. So make sure there's no tube in that little gap. Once there's no tube, you can push it together. Once you've got it pushed together, you want to quickly get a couple of bolts and nuts in there, just 1 or 2 on each side. That's just going to help to pull the two parts together. Get that nut on one side and just get a couple of twists on that bolt. You're not tightening it all the way up yet, so just try to go opposites, so across from each other. So I've got 2 bolts in there now, and that's holding it together. It's not fully tightened yet, and now I'm going to go through and basically put each bolt in, each nut in, and again I'm not going to tighten it up completely. I'm just going to get a couple of threads on each one, so it's starting to put an even pressure on the rim. So now we've 50% tightened all these nuts and bolts. Before I finish tightening them, I'm going to go around and I'm going to squeeze the tyre in the center here all the way around. Now I find by doing this process I very rarely get wobble or a wobbly tyre. I then go around and do the same thing again, but I squeeze the sides all the way around. Just a gentle squeeze, nothing crazy, just enough that I can see the center of the tyre lifted up by 2 or 3 millimeter. Once I've done that, I can go through now and tighten up the bolts. And again, I'm not just going to go clockwise, I'm going to move around the tyre. So from top to bottom to left to right, tighten them up a little bit at a time. I'm not doing each one to 100% tightness, I'm doing each one 20% at a time. Just watching, I'm visually watching the gap on the inside of the rim close. Once it's all tightened and you're happy with that, you can now inflate it. I actually recommend, if you're not in a super hurry, inflate it before you put it back on the board and just leave it for an hour. Come back, check it's still holding air, and then put it back on. If you're in a hurry, inflate it, chuck it on the board, and off you go. It's pretty simple. So that's my tips on how to change a pneumatic tire. The biggest one I can say is order new tubes or replacement tubes when you buy the board. It's gonna add 20, 30, 50 bucks to the purchase price of the board, but honestly, it's worth it. The last thing you wanna do is get a puncture in that first week and not be able to find the appropriate tube. The next point is, just if you've got the ability to, always split the rim. Don't try to get the tire off, because when you put the tire back on, you're gonna pinch the tube. Just split it. It takes 3-4 minutes. It's such an easy job to do. My last tip, and I didn't mention in the video, once you take the old tube out, throw it to the left, throw it to the right. Don't leave it on your bench, because the last thing you want to do is pick up the old tube and put it back in. I've done it before. But that's it, guys. That is day 4 or maybe 5, day 5 here in New Zealand. Tomorrow we're going to go for a drive down to Rotorua and Taupo. We'll get the board out, we'll do some riding. Well, that's the end of this super quick video today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful or informative. If you are new here, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. And even more importantly, if you are in New Zealand, make sure you leave a comment. Tell me where you're from, because all those comments are going to help me when I decide how to do the giveaway of the Tiny Explorer. And of course, before we go, a massive thank you to Tiny. I'm going to say thank you every time. They did supply the board and ship it to New Zealand for me, and it's such a joy to have a board to get around New Zealand. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.